Today is a really cool show. And the reason I say that is because a lot of you know me as the man of many brands. I've been doing this game for a long time. I've been all around the circle, music, art, you name it. I've done it. You don't find too many people that, like me, kind of dip their hands in a lot of different things. This guest is actually a lot like me, man after my own heart, and he's actually someone that lives in one of my previous living states, if you will. But this man is Patrick Hickey Jr. He is, when I tell you the laundry list in a good way of all the things he's done, we'll be here all day, but I'm going to talk about some of the major highlights. One, he's in the world of journalism, just like Tyler and I. He has done video game stuff, including voiceover work. He's also published his own books, so he's an author that has done a lot of video game specific books for many years, from previous retro games up to even modern games. So he's been in the same industry as us as well, but he's also a comic book publisher. So I mean, this guy has done it all, and it's really really awesome to get a chance to sit with him. We're going to talk and learn about some of the different comics he does, some of the other work he does, and maybe if he has anything special lined up that we can learn about today. So, next episode of Press for Time. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the show, guys. Patrick, it's been a long time
guys?
since
How you
we've
doing?
spoken. We spoke.
I know
today, right?
years. It's been years since we last spoke.
What was that, like 2024? Like maybe
Yeah.
4 hours ago.
It was good time. It was a good hour.
Welcome to the show, my friend. Thank you so much for taking the time.
Yeah, man.
So
thank you
how are you doing today?
I'm exhausted. My wife just finished her 12th round of chemotherapy, and it's been a long day. My daughter decided she wanted daddy-daughter time after I had a very long day, so we went out, and I just got home, put on my comfy shoes, came down here. I'm ready to rock and roll.
Awesome.
Yeah, man.
Well, we appreciate your time. We send the best to your family and everything. And
thank you.
From all I've seen with what you do, like I'll let people know you spend a lot of time on social media, which is awesome because it's something that, I feel sometimes we lack because we are pressed for time. We don't get to go out there and live stream as much as we want, but we see you doing it and you're doing a great job, and it's awesome with a lot of things that you say. So I just wanted to make sure that people know that we are definitely like-minded. And that's something that our listeners and watchers love, is when we find people that are passionate about what they do, that believe in what they do, but also believe in other people. And you talk today about appreciation. Tyler and I talk about appreciation till we're blue in the face. So it was really humbling and awesome to hear from someone else outside Art Circle. So kudos to that. And thank you for sending out those positive vibes. It's really awesome.
Yeah, man. I mean, you gotta. It's like there's so many people that are just doing amazing stuff, and they never get a little, pat on the back or like, an attaboy or an attagirl. And you need it, because it's like there's no amount of money that'll make you like happy ever. We all could be making millions of dollars, and it's just like if you get no recognition for what you do, it's like what's the point? It's like that's what I was talking about today on Facebook Live. Like, you've got to learn to find a way to have that inner validation. You've got to kind of understand that your path is the right way to go, because for so many people, they don't have that, and they're just looking for someone to like show some type of appreciation. So it's like, first you have to appreciate yourself before you can be really appreciated by other people. So that's kind of like what I was talking about today.
Awesome. Again, very well said. And it speaks to a lot of the different things you do, because as we mentioned, you do journalism. You are actually, can you let me know a little bit more about your job? Because I know you talk about it, but you do so much. Like, what's your day job? Like, what do you focus on for the most part?
I am the director of the journalism program at Kingsborough Community College, City University of New York in Brooklyn, New York. I've been there for 18 years. I'm also the chairman of the City University of New York Journalism Discipline Council, which means I'm pretty much on top of every journalism class that's being taught in in CUNY. Like I know what classes are being offered, who's teaching them. Like we all work together to try and like bolster, journalism world, CUNY, City University of New York wide. So I'm a full-time college professor.
That's incredible. And
Yeah.
again, you take the time to do all this other stuff out of pure passion, so
If
I
I
don't know how you
didn't, I'd
do
go
it.
crazy. If I didn't, I go crazy. There are so many people out there that it's like they just do their day job and then they go home, and it's like I put a post up on Facebook last night and it was something like it's hard to fight the machine and blah blah blah. And I had somebody from work message me and they go, "Oh, they're gonna think that you're talking negative about work." And I'm like, anyone that thinks that my life is completely defined by one thing is completely wrong. Like I am so much like there's so many different parts, going on and so many different things going on. So if somebody's like, "Oh, he's talking about this one thing," it's like, yeah, you're totally wrong. So yeah, I'm complex.
Well, it also gives it, when people know you for who you are, the fact that you, again, like I say with myself, a man of many brands, you have a lot of different things that you represent that you've been doing
Yeah.
over the years. So, again, a lot of what you say can kind of relate to everything because it kind of
Sure.
all pulls back to you at the end, so
Yeah, man.
whatever you're
Mhm.
putting out, it's that same energy. So, awesome.
Absolutely. Yeah, man.
But I'd like to ask you specifically with Legacy Comics, your publishing company. We talked a little bit offline about that, but when it comes to all the different comics you've done, I like the fact that you started with the crowdfund. That was really awesome because we relate to that. I told you with my music, I started that.
Sure.
So you had a very successful crowdfund, 300 plus, right, percent over,
Yeah.
which is
Yeah.
fantastic. And was the first comic a comic that you did yourself? Did you have other people that were incorporated? Because I know you do other publishing as well. So can you talk a
Yes.
little bit about that?
Yeah, so we originally started the company. It was myself and one John Svedesi, who's no longer with us. We were co-owners. I'm the sole owner, editor in chief now of the brand. But we started because I was at a company called Lesser Known Comics, aptly named. I just took a shot at them. Ooh. Ooh, I felt it. No, I'm only joking. But I was there. I produced 4 issues of my noir Condry, which is about a New York City homeless man who's trying to find out who killed his father. It's very much like my love letter to Brian Michael Bendis, Daredevil, and Sam and Twitch, and Spawn, and Highlander, and They Live, and all the cool stuff that I like. And I wanted to write more comics than just Condry. And Lesser Known Comics was basically like, "Oh, you're doing a really good thing with Condry. We don't want to put too much on your plate." And I was just like, you know what? I think I'm going to take my plate and put some food on it somewhere else. So I went to John, who's really great at doing video and marketing and website development and stuff like that. And he was dabbling in art, and he had done a variant cover for me when I was at Lesser Known. And we just kind of combined forces, hatched out a business plan, and we went to Kickstarter with Condry, The Job, which is my wrestling comic. It's about a jobber who loses every match, but has a hot wife and a hot car, and everyone wonders like how that all happened. And it's easy. They rob banks together. It's a lot of fun. So it's like Dog Day Afternoon and like Mickey Rourke's the wrestler, like mixed into one. It's super fun.
Want some fucking cheese, lady?
Then Kroom, which is a sci-fi like adventure that it's a video game that's been in development for quite some time that I wrote the story for. And then Legend of the Night Owl, which is written by Afram Jambalai. And then we got the rights to Renfield because we got 250-year-old unpublished notes from Bram Stoker's family that were given to us. And they were like, "Yo, why don't you guys do something with this?" So we took those 5 properties and we went to Kickstarter. And we were funded in like 4.5 hours. We were ultimately 301% funded. So it's like I tell people all the time, like Condry is kind of like our Spider-Man or our Wolverine. Like he's like our main guy. But then like all the other comics we pay very close attention to and stuff. But that's how it started. It started with me at Lesser Known Comics with Kieran Quinn. And then we transitioned our stuff into Legacy. And then we just started building the brand from there.
It's awesome. And
Yeah,
now
man.
you have over 20 comics, right? Since then?
Yeah, we've produced I'm pretty sure 48 different print books, including the variants and stuff. We have over 100 digital offerings on the website. We've got merch. So yeah, we've come we've come a long way in like 2.5 years. We've done licensed projects for off Broadway. We just finished a book for a feature film that's being filmed in Canada. We did a book for a wrestling documentary. So we've done licensed work already. We have a signed contract with a video game company to produce work for them. I don't want to get too far into that, but like we're under contract with a major video game company to produce work based on their stuff. So like there's a lot of stuff going on with us. Like I like to tell people all the time, we're built extremely different than other comic book companies and very, very different from other indie comic book companies. Like I just see so many indie comic book companies fighting for the same slice of pizza on the table. Like they're just fighting amongst each other to get into like New York Comic Con. Like they want to get into New York Comic Con to give New York Comic Con like, $1,000 a day, when it's like the chances of you making your money back is ridiculous. There's another way to make money in independent comics. It's to the point where I was at a comic book store like an hour ago and he was like, bro, you did 2 signings with us and you grossed this amount of money. And I'm like, yeah, I know. And he goes, that's crazy. And I'm just like, well, we marketed it properly. We're doing good work and stuff. So it's just like, there is money to be made. There's opportunities out there. And you don't have to do it the way everyone else is doing it. So that's kind of like the way I come at it. I come at it from a journalistic point of view. We talked this morning about like our connections and stuff, and I use all of my connections. I don't think there's an independent comic book company out there that can say that they've had a billboard in Times Square and done a book for an off-Broadway production within their first 2 years, or done a book for a documentary. I mean, I've even reached out as far, I've sent pitches to like Cup of Noodles and like Oodles or Noodles, and I'm like, yo, we should have a Legacy Comics like comic strip inside your soup, and they were like, that's actually like a really good idea. Just like anything that I could think of for us to be different, I'm like willing to do. And a lot of indie comic book companies are like, oh, we need to get all of our books in comic book stores. We need to do this. We need to do that. And it's just like you're following the same recipe that's been done over and over. So you can't, you get the same results as everyone else. I'm not looking to get the same result as everyone else. So we're built different.
Well,
fantastic.
I was to say, we live in a world of change. That's the biggest thing. We live in a world where saturation is probably the hardest thing when it comes to being a creator of any kind. Everybody wants to do it. So I commend you for doing that approach, because as a musician first, being in a band, that's the cliche. That's the equivalent of, I want to go on to be in a band. I want to go on tour. I want to have a record deal. It's not, the end game is not the same result as you think that it's going to be. And they say that there's no money in music. There's money to be made in music if you're in the right field and you're doing the right thing. So it's the same mentality.
It's like, it's a perfect example. I know a lot of people aren't fans of her, Taylor Swift and stuff, but Homegirl went and re-recorded all of her music because she wasn't given the opportunity to buy it when they were selling it. And how many people have like 300, 400 million streams of the same song recorded twice? Like she broke the mold. So it's just like when I look at people like Taylor Swift, Diamond Dallas Page, Chris Jericho, like people that have just like kind of like defined themselves by being successful in multiple fields. And that's really like the way that you have to be. I mean, I help a lot of independent comic book companies in the area, and there's like even a couple like in Chicago and Seattle where like they'll reach out to me and I'll give them advice and stuff. And I'm like, you want to get in a comic book store so bad, and it's just like, so your book can just sit there, like there's so many other ways to get noticed first before. And then the thing is, you need like distribution to be at a certain level before even being in a comic book store makes sense. If you're only producing like 100, 200 comics, it's not even fiscally responsible to be in a comic book store. So it's just like, there's so many things like, that I try and do differently. So
awesome.
Yeah, man.
Tyler, have any particular questions?
Man, so like, what got you to make the jump from journalism to comics? Like, obviously, at some point in between those two, you probably didn't start doing both, right?
So what happened was I originally wrote Condry when I was 18.
Okay.
I'm 40 now. I just said I'm 40.
Don't worry, I say it every episode, and Tyler reminds me. He's young blood.
It's crazy. But what happened was, I was in school for journalism, And I had an amazing professor. His name's Brian McDonald, and he wrote an amazing book called My Father's Gun. And then he wrote another amazing book about Louis Alexis, who was the first like non-white player in Major League history. He was the guy that they named the Cleveland Indians after. A lot of people don't know this. So like when they changed the name from the Indians to the Guardians, I was just like, you understand like what you're doing, like. So so this guy was an amazing journalist, excellent professor. And I was totally getting an A in his class. And then like at the end of the semester, I showed him like what would eventually become like Kanji, like 0 and 1 and like parts of 4. And he's like, listen, he's like, I'm going to level with you. This isn't bad. It's cool. He goes, but you can make a living as a journalist. You have it. You can be an excellent journalist. And he's like, I'm not saying to give this up. I'm just saying that you have it to be a journalist. So then I just stayed in school. I ended up getting my master's in journalism, which is there's no doctorate in journalism. So I have the highest degree that you can have from a top 3 school in the country. And every like couple of years I would try and find an artist for Conjury, and they do some mock-ups and stuff, and it wouldn't look the way that I wanted it to. And then just what ended up happening eventually was I came across an artist by the name of Kieran Quinn. And I was like, this is exactly what I want. And by the time that happened, that was like 2019, the end of 2019. So, but during that time, I've got 20 years of journalism experience. I've interviewed like Philip Seymour Hoffman, Channing Tatum, oh my God, members of the Eagles, members of like, oh my God, like, insane career in journalism. So much fun. Like I've covered SummerSlams, I've covered 2 Olympic Games, I covered 2 presidential campaigns, like just so 3 seasons of Saturday Night Live, just so much fun. So it's just like I've never stopped being a journalist. But then what also happened too was I was just wrapping up my 7th book, The Minds Behind PlayStation 2 Games, and I'm just like, I'm not done with nonfiction. It's just I've done it for 20 years, and I'm just like, writing fiction is scary and it's different, and I'm just like I'm ready to focus on something different. So I'll never not stop. I'll never not be a journalist. Like I'm a senior writer at Old School Gamer magazine right now, and I write an article for them like every month, and I write like 4 or 5 online pieces and stuff. And I own my own entertainment website, reviewfix.com, and I cover professional wrestling like pretty much every day on there. So I'll never stop being a journalist. But fiction is like a lot of fun, and it's unexpected, and it's new, and I've enjoyed it the last 3 or 4 years. So I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, that's awesome, man.
Mm-hmm.
What a pedigree. I mean, again, like I said earlier, I wouldn't have enough time to talk about your accomplishments because it's vast. So it's really impressive. No, great work. And there was something else that you mentioned that you do that we haven't talked about, which is voice acting. There's probably stuff you can't discuss, but is there anything you can tell us that maybe you've already done or that you're working on that does not have an NDA?
Sure. There's a bunch of things that have NDAs right now, but I just finished this past August. I did 65 voices in WrestleQuest for
That's right. I remember you telling me that.
Mm-hmm.
That's so crazy.
The Guinness World Record for most voices in a single game is like 35. It's like a dog's tail for PS2. So like I've crushed it. So like we're waiting on like Guinness to like get back to us so we can authenticate it, and it's like this big long process and stuff like that. But I'm the voice of the Macho Man Randy Savage in that game. I'm the voice of like the Legion of Doom, of Junkyard Dog, Coco Beware, like tons and tons of characters. So there's that. I'm trying to think. I voiced Nicolas Cage's character and Nicholas Holt's character in the Renfield video game. That's on Steam. That was a lot of fun. I'm the villain in Beat PM Boy on the Atari VCS. I did both games in the Padre series. I'm the main character in that game. It's like a survival horror game. It's a lot of fun. That's how I broke into voice acting, and that's a crazy story all by itself. Like I saw the game on Twitter, and it just reminded me of like if Minecraft and like Castlevania, like on the PS2, had like a baby. It was like the lighting effects were like, it was so like it so felt, and the camera angle so felt like a Konami game on the PS2, but it looked like Minecraft. It had that voxel look. So I reached out to the developers and I was like, I'd love to interview you for Review Fix. So their English wasn't very good, so we ended up doing an email Q&A, and I cleaned it up tremendously, and it got good traffic. And then they reached out to me, and they're like, "Oh, listen, would you want to be dialogue editor on the game?" And I'm like, "Sure." And there's just a ton of typos in the game because English was their second language, so I banged it out for them. I thought it was going to be like simple like contract work, and then they're like, "Oh, refresh the the Steam client," because it was like an early access. And I do, and then I go to the credits and my name is in there as dialogue editor, and I'm like, that's badass. And then like a week later, they're like, "Oh, we have more for you," and I'm like, "Okay." So then I did that, and then they're like, "We're going to Kickstarter. We need you to edit the Kickstarter," and I'm like, "Okay." And that's no joke. That's tough work. It's got to be perfect.
Yes.
And like literally 3 days before the Kickstarter, these guys with like their thick Romanian accents, they sound like the vampire from Sesame Street, and they're just like, "Oh, we're fucked. And I'm like, "What's the matter?" And they're like, "The voice actor left of the main character." And I'm like, "That's not a problem." And they're like, "Why?" And I'm like, "The guy sounded like Russell Brand." And it's like you're playing a Catholic, yeah. But you're playing a Catholic priest that's stuck inside of a mansion with like zombies and all these creatures and stuff. So it's like, whoa, man, like, whoa, zombies, man, like, wow. And every time, because I edited all the dialogue, I wrote a nice chunk of the dialogue, I'm just like cringing, and I'm like, that's not the voice. And they're like, "Well, we need to get voice actors like on call like right now, blah, blah, blah." And they're talking to their PR person, seeing if their PR person knows anybody. And I'm just like, "Just let me audition." And I knew the voice had to have more bass in it. And for some reason, the game is called The Padre, but they wanted the Padre, the Catholic priest, to be English. I don't know. I didn't write it, So I've always been good at that,
In a world, one man, one tortilla, rated PG-13.
And but I'm like, I can't do that.
Can't do Pablo.
They'll die. People will laugh their ass off the entire game, So, and it's supposed to be scary.
So I came across this dark voice. My name is Alexander, and I'm the Padre.
And they were like, "Yo, that's it." So they're like, "We need you to record everything like right now." And I'm like, "Right now?" And it was like 4,000 lines of dialogue.
Jesus Christ.
Dude, I was like, my throat was crispy when it was over. I'm like, I'm brushing my teeth after, and I'm just like brushing the back of my throat, and the blood is just like coming out, I wish I was joking. And
no, I believe it.
I send them everything, and then like an hour later, same exact thing as the first time. They're like, "Refresh your Steam." So I refreshed my Steam, and it's like The Padre, voiced by Patrick Hickey Jr. And I'm like, we're in it. And then what happened was, since I've been a journalist in video games at that point for probably like 12 or 13 years, because this was like 7 years ago, all of these video game companies that I've worked with in the past were like, "You do voiceover?" And I'm like, "Yeah, now I guess." And then I've done so many trailers now. I've probably done trailers for like 50 games just because it's like that whole the Pablo thing.
In a world, one game, blah, blah, blah.
Like people love it. And it's just like, quick and dirty. I can get it done super fast. I've done a lot of stuff for Megacat Studios. A lot of trailers for Megacat Studios, but I've done a lot of trailers for Retro Ninja Games. There's like 5 or 6 companies that I've done trailer work for. But like, yeah, it's been so much fun. And the reason why I got the first opportunity is because of journalism and because of my love of video games and things like that. So just leveraging opportunities,
Well, I think your personality probably helped incredibly because you just from hearing it sounds like you build a really good foundation in that relationship with them. So then you just have those opportunities to have that conversation where it's a lot more casual than you kind of having to fight and beg for a chance, So
that's what my wife says to me all the time. She's like, "Listen, honey," she's like, "You've got great eyes," and she's like, "It's not that you're ugly, because you're not ugly." She goes, "But when you start talking," she's like, "you're dangerous when you start talking." She's like, you can do crazy stuff when you start talking, so never stop talking." I'm like, "I won't, believe me, I won't." So yeah.
She's like, "Can you just stop right now for this moment?"
Yeah, just stop right now. And if she hears, because like I'm downstairs right now in the man cave, if she hears the
in a world, or let me tell you something, Vinny, yeah, can you dig it?
She's like, shh, I don't want no more Macho Man, no more. Like she's just, because I mean, I was on WrestleQuest for like 3.5 years. So it's just like I would go downstairs like every 5 or 6 days and just record for like an hour or two, and it's just like, yeah, like all the grunts and like
Yeah.
and she just come upstairs. I'd come upstairs and she's like, when is this game? Because the game got delayed like 2 or 3 times.
Yes, I remember. Right.
And it's just like, Pat, we need you to do like they said that they need more sound effects. Like I'm just adding like variants to stuff to fill it out, and my wife is like, Jesus. Like, and then once the game came out, I streamed on Twitch, and that was so much fun too. Like to stream on a video game developer's like official Twitch. Like they gave me the keys to the castle for like 3 months, and I was streaming like 2 or 3 times a week. But they made this rig for me, so like the Macho Man character was like connected to my, to my movements and stuff, and it probably cost them a ton of money to do because it was animated beautifully, but it was just like I couldn't be myself. I had to talk the entire time we're playing WrestleQuest, and it was just like I did an interview with Chris Van Vliet, who's like one of the biggest like wrestling, journalists of all time. And I'm on his show and he's just like, are you going to break character? And I'm like, no, brother, I can't. Yeah. Like, and then it's just like, once the recording was off, like, I flicked the thing off and he saw me and stuff. And he goes, dude, that's crazy. I'm like, yeah. So, but, yeah, it's been a wild ride. PAX East 2-3 years in a row, PAX West, like went to Ric Flair's last match, like MagFest, like so many different things for that run. So I'm happy that game is out, but at the same time too, it's like, it's sad because that team was so much fun to work with.
Yeah, and that falls into that gaming industry catechism of, a game gets released and then what's going to happen? Is the developer going to get a chance? Is somebody going to buy them out? Is somebody, it's a conversation for another day. We talk a lot about the losses on that side, so I'm sure you've seen it. It's
absolutely.
So, all right, we've hit wrestling, we've hit journalism, we've hit comics, we've hit voice acting. You write books.
7.
Break it
7
down
and I just finished editing a 728-page memoir, which ironically we ended up publishing through Legacy Comics, which I created a new subdivision of Legacy Comics called Legacy Publishing. So it's the second book I've edited since August of this year, because it's just like, listen, man, like if you've got a skill set and like you're good at what you do, like you gotta get out there. So it's like I moved into a nice neighborhood in Staten Island and I want to continue to have this nice lifestyle. So it's just like if I could pick up a side project and help somebody get published and kind of get my name out there in other ways, I'm totally down. So I've written 7 books on video game history. In the Minds Behind the Games series. So I'm looking at them right now. The Minds Behind the Games, the Minds Behind Adventure Games, the Minds Behind Sports Games, the Minds Behind Sega Genesis games, the Minds Behind Shooter games, the Minds Behind PlayStation games, and the Minds Behind PlayStation 2 games. So each book is broken up into like anywhere from 30 to 40 chapters. And each chapter is me interviewing a team that made a game. So that goes from like E.T. on the Atari 2600 to as far as like Call of Duty on the PlayStation 4 and 5. And it's just, I get like the VH1 behind the music or like ESPN 30 for 30, like story of how the game was made, unfiltered, like just really like a lot of fun. So that's like, that ties in all of my journalism exploits. So those books have been, I remember it was like, I'll never forget the date, October 31st, 2016. And, I had like a really shitty day at work, pardon my French. And I'm just like, I needed to do something different. And I went to like my chair at the time, the director of my program, I'm sorry. And I was like, I need to do something differently. I think I'm going to write a book. And he was very much like, oh, then go write a book, kid, And I sat in my man cave and I just looked around and I just started pulling out games like Wonder Boy and Monsterland, King's Bounty, Toe Jam and Earl, E.T., Pitfall, just all these like classic games. And I'm just like, if I can get like half of these games, I had like 6 games in my hands. I'm like, if I can get like half of them to sit down with me and do interviews with them, I think I'll have enough to like pitch a publisher like for a book like this. And it was by Thanksgiving. It was like 3 weeks later. I had interviewed all of them. I got the interviews with all of them, and my wife was pregnant with my daughter at the time, and she was wasted on tryptophan because it's Thanksgiving. So she had like a big piece of turkey, and she's sound asleep on the couch, which is awesome. You're pregnant, you're sleeping on the couch. It's fine. That's what you're supposed to do. But now I'm sitting here and I've got like 6 chapters written. It's Thanksgiving weekend, and I'm like, I need to do something with this. So I just started pitching publishers like after Thanksgiving dinner, and that was like a Thursday in November. And 3 days later, McFarlane gets back to me, and they're like, let's do business. And then we were just off and running from there. So those books have been so much fun to do. I definitely want to do another one, but I mean, I've published 7 books in 6 years, and every day I get an email from somebody that's like, is there another book? And I'm like, you've just read one, so it's like, I'm waiting for like people to kind of like catch up. I did a lot of work in a very short amount of time. So
Right.
I'm kind of like letting the dust settle a little bit before I go on to the next one.
Oh yeah, man. And
No,
those
that
are
makes sense.
those type of stories, and digging that deep into these different things, it's so exhausting, and trying to make sure it's all done correctly. You're talking to the right
Oh, yeah.
people, and what they're giving you is actually usable and everything. I get it. That is a ton of exhausting work on top
Mhm.
of then writing everything. So
Oh yeah, and the thing is too, it's like there's a bunch of like really good video game interview books out, but it's just like so many of them are done in like Q&A style.
Yeah.
And it's like they're like, I hate to say it, but some of them are like really lazy.
yes.
And it's just like these are not done in Q&A style. These are written like long form features, like things that you would find on like Polygon, like we're talking like each chapter is anywhere from like 2,000 to like 9,000 words, like ranging, so it was a lot of work to sit down with these people. A lot of them, like pretty much all of my books were done between my mom's battle with cancer and my 2 kids being born. So it was like I was doing all of this writing like on the bus and train while like crazy stuff was happening in my life. So it's like every time I look at these, I'm just like, they're kind of like an example of like what can be done in the face of like really tough times. It's like I remember I'm looking at the minds behind PlayStation games now, and I was writing the Parasite Eve chapter when my wife was in labor with my son. It was like the middle of COVID, and I'm sitting in the waiting room, and I can't go in yet.
Right.
They like were waiting until like the last second to like let me in. So I had like my RG 350, like my little portable ROM player, and I'm playing Parasite Eve while I have like my phone next to me, and I'm like reading through what like the lead level designer of Parasite Eve had to say about the game. So it's just like it's not just like, for me, it's not just journalism. I love everything that video game developers stand for. I love like their creative spirit. I love, like, I've interviewed the founding fathers of EA Sports. I've interviewed the team of Medal of Honor, which eventually became the team of the first Call of Duty because of the wives letter and stuff. So like I've had the opportunity to interview so many amazing game developers. So it's just like it's a huge part of me. And now in my own small way, having done some dialogue editing, some writing on games that are unreleased, as of right now, and the voice acting, like to have my own small little role in the video game industry is equally as important to me. So
It's almost like a full circle moment when you think about it, right?
it's pretty crazy, so it's just like whenever I do a panel and like they'll introduce me as like a voice actor, and then I'm not saying that voice actors aren't taken seriously, but it's just like they expect me to be like funny and this and that. And I am. I think I'm kind of funny. You think I'm funny? I'm a little funny. But then it's just like when I throw in like, yeah, I've written 7 books on video game history. I'm a college professor. Like I edit books. I've written thousands of articles. Then they're like, oh, wait a second. This guy is different. And that's if I could put a bumper sticker on my car that my wife would approve, it would say I'm different. So it's like that's what I'm just trying to to convey as much as I possibly can.
I think you're doing a great job.
Thank you.
Not exaggerating. Like seriously, the fact that you can search your name. If anybody that's curious, obviously we're going to link all of your content in the video, but you can search your name and you could find so much just by typing your name, and that's speaks volumes to all the work that you've done. And again, you've done so much in such a short period of time. So there's nothing short of incredible, honestly.
Thank you.
So
thank you, man.
I can ask you questions all day, but I want to know, is there anything new that you're working on that you can talk about? Anything that you're really excited about?
Oh, I'm super excited. So, I haven't announced this formally yet, but since you guys are so awesome, I'll formally announce it here. So the Minds Behind the Games book series, we've sold thousands of books, but we probably should have sold like hundreds of thousands of books. The sad reality is that many video game fans and hardcore gamers don't want to read a book that isn't like a coffee table style book. And the Minds Behind the Games books are not coffee table style books. They're written in a very conversational, laid back way, but there's more words than pictures. And a lot of gamers will go, this is a real book. Like, like that's like whenever because like I've done like Long Island Retro and like I've done so many cons and I'm sitting there with my books and people are like, oh, this sounds really cool, but I don't really read. Like that.
Right.
And it's
Read
just
like that.
And it breaks my heart because like we're in 2,000 libraries worldwide: Harvard, Yale, Stanford, UCLA, Berkeley, University of Shanghai. Like I'm in libraries all over the place, digitally, physically. And I want these stories to get out because they're important stories, and it goes into like the craft of making video games, and it's about perseverance and all these things. So I'm just like, what can I do to get these stories out there to as many people as possible? And then it's just like, I'm not sure how Tyler, how into comics you are, and I know Benny, you're a big comic book guy, but like the death of Ed Piskor really like affected me big time. And we're not going to get into like why he died and like the conversations he was having with women on Twitter and stuff like that. The thing that hit me the hardest is like Ed Piskor did amazing work and passed away at 41. And I'm just like, I'm 40. Like, if I have 1 year left, that's scary. Like, there's some stuff that I need to do. Like, I feel like I haven't done enough. So I'm just like, the Minds Behind the Games are just like, they're books that like are close to my heart. It's some of my best work. And I'm just like, it should have been read by more people. So I'm just like, well, what if I take the interviews that I've done and translate them into comic book format? What if I take each chapter and turn each chapter into like a 24-page comic? So we have like the Minds Behind the Games, like number 1, which would be this game, and Minds Behind the Games, the comic 2 would be this game. So we started probably like a month ago, the Minds Behind the Games 1, and it's on Red Dead Revolver. And amazing story. If you guys are not familiar with the story behind Red Dead Revolver, it was originally a Capcom game, and Capcom essentially traded that game to Rockstar for nothing. For free, essentially, and all they wanted was the publishing rights in Japan for Grand Theft Auto 3 and Grand Theft Auto Vice City. So if you see a Japanese version of Grand Theft Auto 3 and Grand Theft Auto Vice City, you'll see a Capcom logo, and you'll be like, what the hell is that? And Capcom had Red Dead Revolver in the can like development cycle for like 3.5 years, and they had no idea what it was. They could not solve it. And luckily, the guys at Rockstar are big fans of like spaghetti westerns and stuff like that. And they ended up taking the team at Angel Studios, which are responsible for making the very good Resident Evil 2 port on the Nintendo 64. Resident Evil 2 should not work on the Nintendo 64. It should not be feasibly possible to get a 2-disc game to work on a cartridge, but Angel Studios did. And they also created games like Smuggler's Run, which uses the driving system in all the Grand Theft Auto games is the driving system in Smuggler's Run. So Angel Studios is a huge piece of the Rockstar, puzzle, but it didn't come together until they were acquired, really, after this whole Capcom sit down. So I interviewed Dominic Craig, who was one of the lead programmers on Red Dead Revolver, and we've turned that interview into a comic book. It is so much fun. It's basically taking all the best parts of the interview, and then just like he talks about growing up playing Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening on the Game Boy, and how that was his gateway drug. So like we show him as a kid on like on the Game Boy, and then on the English computer systems at the time, and it's just like we take you through like him playing Doom, and it's just so much fun and immersive. But it's the same interview as the book, but it's just presented in a different way. And I am like, we're probably going to be out around August or September with it, and I'm just super duper excited to like get this out in a different format. So that's one thing. Then the other thing is Condry, our flagship series at Legacy, is going to be coming out with an omnibus at the end of November. So it's like Conjury 0 through 5, and then the 3 spin-offs. So it's like 170 pages, some variant cover art, a cool forward. It's just a lot of fun. So we have that. Then we've got some. We have a really cool zombie series called Brooklyn Bleeds. And it's basically like a zombie apocalypse comic told from the point of view of the animals affected during a zombie apocalypse. So it's just like,
oh man,
nobody ever thinks like, what happens to the dog during a zombie apocalypse? So Brooklyn Bleeds is narrated by a dog whose owner is bit by a zombie and then effectively locks himself in the house with the dog, and then the dog has to like escape. But the whole book is narrated by the dog. So instead of like the dog is hungry, he doesn't know what to do, it's the dog narrating going, hungry, don't know what to do. So it's written in this very like guttural, like instinctual style. It's a lot of fun to write. We're probably going to have like a mini omnibus of that's going to be like 70 pages or so. So we've got a lot of cool stuff coming from Legacy. Voice acting, there's a couple of roles that I can't talk about right now because of NDAs, but like all I'm going to say is that I will send you guys messages the day that I am legally capable of doing it, and you're going to be like, stop it. So just like last summer when they asked me, when Megacat Studios asked me to voice like Nicolas Cage's Dracula in Renfield, I was like, absolutely, like, let's do it. So like that was a really fun thing. The next like voiceover opportunity that's next blows that out of the water. It's just like, I'm so excited over this. And then I'm doing some stuff too for Retro Ninja. They've got a couple of games coming out. I know BPM Boy. BPM Boy is the best game on the Atari VCS, and it's said that the VCS hasn't gotten like the support that it deserves. But like BPM Boy is like Marble Madness and like Super Monkey Ball with like Jersey Shore mixed in. Like it's so much fun. Like the main character, like the main character, like the villain sounds like Paulie D from Jersey Shore, you know,
hilarious.
and it's all music because BPM, boy. So
Right.
it's just like, so it's kind of like a rhythm game mixed with Marble Madness in like this fun little world. Like the main character is like this like little ball with like headphones on and stuff, and he's super adorable. And that's coming out they're working on it for Steam now. So I'm the voice of the villain in the game. So there's so much fun. There's so much fun stuff coming. I'm super excited.
That's
Awesome.
incredible, man. It's so much. That's so much, dude. Like, good Lord.
To me, it feels like it's not enough. It's like,
Yeah.
it's crazy. It's crazy.
Well, you're also hungry for it. So you again, you talk about that approach of kind of tackling as many different things as you can because it's all different industries, kind of, in a sense.
Yeah.
But it's also different disciplines, that you're doing. So
yeah,
hey, it's let's get Patrick as a household name. That's really important. I think that's a big part of it, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, man. And that's the thing. It's just like, I think of like my day-to-day like experience. It's very similar to like Animal Crossing. It's like there's a snowball there that needs to be kicked around a little bit to become something different. And if you don't go out every single day and kick the snowball, you don't get to make the snowman and you don't get to go on an adventure. So that's kind of like how I see like every single day. Like I need to go out there and I need to get 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 small little things done and move that chain, move that snowball. It's like, what are the Beatles saying? You got to carry that weight. And it's like, that's, it's, you got to, every day you got to carry that weight. And if you don't, then you're not going to get the results that you want, and we definitely, I don't like to get like negative or anything, but we live in a time where a lot of people want maximum results from minimal effort. And it's like it just doesn't happen that way. Like you really need to like break your own heart and like shatter your own soul every single day if you want any type of success. And it's just like, it's like things like when people tell me, like whenever I'm working with a new artist and I suggest changes for them, because I'm never happy the first time, it's very rare. And they'll go, oh, well, I gave you the best that I possibly could. Or if a writer says that to me, I gave you the best that I could. I go, you don't know what your best is, like none of us know. And the thing is like, who wants to find out? And those are the people that I want to work with. And that's like how I try and set myself up for success. Like I don't know what my best is. So that's why I go out every day and I'm not scared to make mistakes, make a fool out of myself, push my stuff as hard as I possibly can, because everyone else is just waiting around and they think they're going to be discovered or an influencer is going to pick them up and stuff like that. And it's just like, you got to be your own influencer. You got to be your own brand. I had, one of my buddies is, Benjamin Johnson, and he's the co-creator of Rockstar Table Tennis. and he worked on Red Dead Redemption and stuff. And I remember he bought like a copy of Condry Zero off of my website. And he's like, "Yeah, man, there's been a lot of buzz about Condry and stuff like that." And I remember talking to my wife after. I'm like, "He told me that there was buzz. There is no buzz. It's me on Facebook, like plugging the living about this every single day." So it's just like you got to be your own hype machine. Everyone's looking to have a Bobby the Brain Heenan like behind them talking for them. You have to be your own Bobby the Brain Heenan. So.
Oh, it's well said, man. Tyler.
Well,
yeah,
man, thank you so much. We're gonna let
no
you
problem.
go, let you get back to your day, man. We really appreciate your time. It's incredible listening to everything. I'm gonna go read these books because I do read gamer books. I read real books, so I want to check those out. And thank you again, man.
Yeah, man, I hope you do. I mean, they're enjoyable, and they're like the real stories of how these games were written. Like, I talked to, the creator of Aladdin on the Sega Genesis, and how he slept in his car the entire time, and it's just like, oh, he slept in his car. Who cares? The guy's 6'8" and was sleeping in a tiny ass car the entire time, so it's just like so many fun stories. I talked to like the translation team on Final Fantasy VII and how they were the first Americans to watch Aerith die. And it was like 50 guys in one room, all crying and screaming at the same time because they're playing the game together at the same exact time, looking for bugs and grammar issues. And they're all like, "Oh my God, Sephiroth killed Aerith," So it's just like, there's so many fun stories like that. And then it's just like, if you're looking for something lighter and something different, the comics are so much fun. Like, I'm trying to build really fun worlds. And it's like, regardless of whatever you're into, professional wrestling, noir, zombies. My daughter wrote a comic book.
I was just gonna ask you to mention that. Yes.
Yeah, she's 7 years old. Like, when we moved to Staten Island, she like lost all of her friends and she had to like kind of start over. And she came over to me and she's like, "Dad, can I write a comic?" And I'm like, "Yes, homegirl." And I hooked her up with one of my favorite artists, and she went to work, and it's like one of our top books. And so it's just like, we have literally something for everyone. So it's just like comics, books. Like, I want to touch as many people as possible, and not in a Bill Cosby way.
What did he say?
I think that's a good way
in as wholesome and educational way as possible.
Absolutely.
Yeah, no pudding pops here.
No
pudding pops.
No pudding pops.
Oh, well, Patrick, again, thank you so much for your time today. Thank you for sharing so much. It is really, I think everybody needs to take a moment after the episode, check all the different links. You can purchase the comics. You can watch them, view them digitally. You can purchase the books as well. And again, WrestleQuest and plenty of other games that are available where you get to see this man in action. So
Yeah.
we hope everybody has a great day. Appreciate your time as always. And remember, take care. Have fun.
Oh, yeah.